Baruch Hashem, we're starting a new Zman in this wonderful kollel, and I see new faces, Baruch Hashem, with the Sabbath to the Devei Midrasha, and from the depth of my heart, first of all, I wish all the Avreichen, Kadoshim v'gam Yishonim, should be a gewaldig Zman, and the Masechta we're learning, the HaRav we're learning, Hilchos Challah is an amazing choice, Baruch Hashem, and I hope we'll have many, many opportunities. However, usually my first year is not really a Liba de Hilchos, and today we will be discussing the Yesodis, the fundamentals of a Rosh Hashanah, and actually the very first seif in Hilchos Challah. So we have a huge sefer here, so I don't really know how to navigate this, but where is the Shulchan Aruch? Page. 630.
638.
Exactly 630.
638.
Okay, that's fine. So the very first seif in Hilchos Challah, mitzvah to say lahafresh truma me'isa v'litne lakayin. Reishes arizu seichem challah torimu trumo. Reishes zeh ein lo yishiyem an ha-Torah. So, if time will suffice, if we'll have enough time, we're going to discuss two topics. Topic number one, mitzvah to say lahafresh. Number two, ein lo yishiyem an ha-Torah. So mitzvah to say lahafresh. And when does that mitzvah become relevant? And that seems to be a big machlokes in the Achronim. Goes back to the days of the Rishonim. Is a Rosh Hashanah basically a matir, or is it a mitzvah? Is it upon every person that has a field, and in his field he grows produce? Does he have a chiyuv of Rosh Hashanah? Or is it only if he eats, and he intends to eat? Before eating, he needs to be mafresh. And the same question would be relevant legabe challah. The mere fact that you made an issa, you have a chiyuv of Rosh Hashanah. Or is it only when you come to eat? And as long as you don't eat, you don't have a chiyuv or a mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah. So the Taz in the very first Simon Yoredeya, and the first Simon Yoredeya, as everybody knows, is Hilchos Shchita, Simon Aleph, Sivkot Miyud Zayin. The Taz argues that Berchas HaShchita is not Berchas HaMitzvah. It cannot be Berchas HaMitzvah because Shchita is only a matio. And the Taz says a gewaltige Chiddush that even though the Nusach HaBrocha is Ashikidishonu b'mitzvayso v'tzivonu, doesn't necessarily mean that it's a Berchas HaMitzvah. It is a Berchas HaShevach. And we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us this mitzvah, but it's not Berchas HaMitzvah because Shchita is not a mitzvah. Shchita is a matio. So the first Chiddush in the Taz is regarding the door. A gewaltige Chiddush that the Nusach HaBrocha doesn't necessarily determine the nature of the brocha. And even though it's the classical formula of Berchas HaMitzvah, Shikadishonu b'mitzvah, it's not Berchas HaMitzvah, Berchas HaShevach. But this Yesod we find in Tosis and in Rash, far earlier than the Taz. Regarding Berchas Erusin, Shittas HaRosh, Ksubas Avzayim, also in Tosis HaRosh there, and also Rosh HaMashas and Piskei HaRosh, the Rosh says Berchas Erusin, even though it's actually Kedushanim Mitzvah, it's almost Berchas HaShach. The Rosh feels that Erusin is not a mitzvah, it's only a matio, and therefore the Baruch is Berchas HaShach. And we find it in Shabbos Kuf Lamed Zayin regarding father's brocha b'midas haben, lachnisa lebrusa shel Avraham Avinu, that is Berchas HaShevach. So we have other precedents. Ashi Kedushono b'mitzvah v'tzivon is not necessarily Berchas HaMitzvah, it could be Berchas HaShevach. But what is this Negea in Yonenu? The Taz says a Rosh Hashanah is different. And the brocha on Trumas HaMaises is Berchas HaMitzvah, because a person has to say the brocha even if he does not eat. And therefore, Rosh HaMaises and Challah would not be defined as a matio, but rather as a mitzvah. So the Taz clearly says, you have no mitzvah of shchita, only when you come to eat basar, but you have the mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah regardless of whether you intend to eat or not. Rabbi Kiva on the spot. rejects the Taz, and he says no, would be the same. You have no mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah unless you intend to eat. And Rosh Hashanah is to be mati is a tevel, to be mator the peres la'achila. And Rabbi Kiva quotes Mogen Avram Simen Ches Shulchan Aruch Arachayim Simen Ches Azulchas Tzitzis. See if cotton base. The Mogen Avram deals with the basic question: do we stand or do we sit when we say Berachos HaMitzvahs? That's a very broad topic. Maybe we'll discuss some other time. Maybe one will learn Hilchos Tzitzis or Hilchos Tefillin or other halachas. So the Mogen Avram says usually Berachos HaMitzvah one has to stand. Tzitzis is different. No. Because Ein a mitzvah kol kach. And he says the same regarding Trumas HaMaises. Trumas HaMaises is a Mishnah Mefureshes that you could say the book while you're seated. The beginning of Masechet Trumas. Whether a man or a woman could say the bracha while she's seated and not dressed, whether liber, ever. But it's a Mefesh Mishnah. You're Mafesh Trumas HaMaises and you say the bracha while you're seated. So the Mogen Avram says, Trumas HaMaises ain't a mitzvah kol kach, because it is only when you want to eat that you have the mitzvah. So the lashon of the Mogen Avram is obviously it's a mitzvah. Otherwise, how could you say a bracha? And the Mogen Avram falls short of using the chiddush of the Taz that's Berachos HaShevach and not Berachos HaMitzvah. But he says it's different than other Berachos HaMitzvah, because it is only when you eat that you need to say the bracha. And Rabbi Kiva Eiger feels that the Mogen Avram actually goes against the Taz. And the Mogen Avram says, Rosh Hashanah is a matir. And therefore there is no mitzvah unless you intend to eat. And the mitzvah is matir peres la'achilach. And to me it's a gewaltige chiddush that neither the Mogen Avram nor the Taz, nor the Kiva Eiger, three Gedolei Olam, and nobody quotes Rashi because it's a Mefursha Rashi and Gittin Daf Mem Zayin and Medalev. Rashi differentiates between Bikurim and Trumas HaMaises, and Rashi says, Bikurim, if this is Reishis Bikurei Adamascha, you have a chiyuv of Bikurim, regardless of whether you intend to eat or not. But Trumas HaMaises comes to be Matir Peres La'achila. And Rashi clearly says, if you don't eat, you don't have a chiyuv of Trumas HaMaises. And therefore, Trumas HaMaises are toivel. It's tevel for a Trumas HaMaises. Bikurim is not toivel. If you took off Trumas HaMaises, the Peres HaMutar V'Achila, even though you did not take off Bikurim. So Rashi clearly says, there is no mitzvah of a froshes Trumas HaMaises unless the person intends to eat. So Rashi obviously is a raya to the Taz, and the Mogen Avram and Rabbi Kiva Eiger have a different opinion, and they feel it's a mitzvah regardless of whether you eat or not. And I think the Rambam L'chayre is a raya to the Taz. If it wouldn't be a Terech, I would like to have a Rambam Kedusha and Sefer HaMitzvahs Rambam, if they're Behei said yes. Sefer HaMitzvahs could I have the Frankel Rambam Kedusha. So Sefer HaMitzvahs. So let's start with Minyan HaMitzvahs. Sefer HaMitzvahs Kuf Mem Vav is the mitzvah of Shechita. Shetzivonu lishchot behema chaya v'oif v'acher ye'ochel b'saron. Shetzivonu lishchot v'acher ye'ochel b'saron. Trumas HaMaises Kuf Chavav Kuf Chavtes Shetzivon loitzi truma gedoyla. Doesn't say achar kach yochel. Kuf chav zayin. Maiso. Shetzivon loitzi masa mitzemach haaretz. Doesn't write achar kach yochel. Kuf chav ches masa sheni. Kuf chav tes. Tumas maiso. Doesn't write va'achar yochel. And I think it is very obvious also in Zeroim and in Hilchos Shchita. Hilchos Shchita is in Sefer Kedusha. So, Protei HaMitzvahs, and the Rambam specifies Tayag Mitzvah Shevet 3 times in his magnificent Sforim. Minyan HaMitzvahs, which the Rambam describes as Sefer HaMitzvahs HaKotzo, which is an integral part of Mishnah Torah, Sefer HaMitzvahs, and Protei HaMitzvahs. Protei HaMitzvahs in the beginning of Hilchos Shchita, the Lashon of the Rambam, and that's Ksav Kosher Shel Rambam. Protei HaMitzvahs. Lishchot, va'achar kach yoichal. So the mitzvah is not to eat, obviously. So why does the Rambam write Lishchot, va'achar kach yoichal? Clearly proves if you don't intend to eat, you have no mitzvah of shchita. Haloch Aleph, Perek Aleph Haloch Aleph. Mitzvah says sheyishchot mishi yirtzeh lechol basar b'ein mechaya v'oiv. So what is the mitzvah? Sheyishchot mishi yirtzeh lechol. And if you don't have any intention of eating, you have no mitzvah of shchita. So we see this in Sefer HaMitzvahs, Protei HaMitzvahs, and Perek Aleph Haloch Aleph. And in Sefer HaMitzvahs we saw First Tumas HaMaisis doesn't write Achar Kach Yochel, but in Tumas Protei HaMitzvahs Lahafresh Tumah Gedoyla, Lahafresh Tumas HaMaisis doesn't write Achar Kach Yochel. Perek Beis Haloch Aleph. Mitzvah says Lahafresh Mimeno Kol davar shu oichel gedulim in haaretz trom el hakohen, and he does not say misha yirtzeh lechol. Challah, Hilchos Challah. Actually, we're learning Challah, and Challah is basically the same as Tumas HaMaisis, same basic halachas. So the Rambam in Hilchos Challah as well, and Perek Hey, Halocha Aleph, and the Rambam writes Tzorach Hafresh Challah Ben Lisa, and the Rambam does not say Mishi Yirtzeh Lechem, unless it's Tzorach Hafresh. Perek Hey, Halocha Aleph. So once again, there's a mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah, but there's no mitzvah, and the Rambam doesn't specify Mishi Yirtzeh Lechol. Hilchos Ishus, Perek Aleph Halocha Aleph. The Rambam defines mitzvahs kedushin. The Rambam writes that a person that wants to live with a woman has a mitzvah l'kadosh Yisrael v'achar kach yovei aleo. We find the same in Sefer HaMitzvahs. Reishu Gimel, the Rambam defines mitzvah seirusin, live oil, b'kedushin. So it is very clear. Regarding Gerusin, regarding Shchita, according to the Rambam, the mitzvah is only when you choose to live with a woman, when you choose to eat a basar. But regarding Challah, Tumas HaMaisis, no. So the Rambam seems to support the Taz, while seems to support the Mughal Roman of Akiva Eiger, while Rashi, Git Mem Zayin, would be a raya to the Taz. Chazonish, Hilchos Demai, Siman Dalet, Oiz Beis. Very, very interesting. The Chazonish writes.
The Rambam saying that it's a mitzvah even if you don't want to eat.
Right.
That's much more like the Taz. Right.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yes. So Rashi clearly is like Rabbi Akiva Eiger in the Mughal of Rome. Yeah, I just switched it. Rashi clearly says there is no mitzvah for Rosh Tumas HaMaisis. Shelo kebikurim. Bikurim is a mitzvah whether you want to eat or not. Tumas HaMaisis only if you want to eat and when you want to eat. So Rashi supports the Mughal of Rome and Rabbi Akiva Eiger, while the Rambam l'chayre is a raya to the Taz. Chazonish D'mai. Daled Beis. The Chazon Ish says that Taz is right. There's a chiyuv of Roshlam Samaisis, whether you want to eat or not. However, there is no issur in burning or destroying truma, even without the Roshlam Samaisis. And that seems to be a part of the Satra. Why would that not be defined as bitul mitzvahs aseh? So the Chazon Ish is somewhat of a compromise. And, whenever I quote Chazon Ish, I like to see his version. If we do have a Chazon Ish wrong, if it's not a Terech Seder. So the Chazon Ish on one hand argues, of course the Taz is right. And he has two gewaltige eyes. One is Biur. Shnasa Biur. What is Shnasa Biur about? All the tevel you have, you need to be mafresh with Samaisis and give it to a kohen. Why? How could there be a chiyuv of a frosher if it's dependent, does he want to eat or not? And also about the acher. At the beginning of Masechet Rosh Hashanah, Yesh Misha Oimer, that Tumas Samaisis, there's Bal Ta'acher, Gimel Regolim. So why would there be Bal Ta'acher if it's dependent, does he want to eat or not? So the Chazon Ish, Ois Beis, Simen Dalad, and Hilchos Demai, Nere. The Imanaheno Bala Moive Be'esed the Tumas Samaisis, Soiref Einoi Oiver Ba'asai. Afal Gav the Nere Ikar Kedasu Oimrim, the Maser, He Mitzvah Chiyubis, Sharei Oiver Ba'bal Ta'achar, Ve'emei Mitzvah Bal Ta'achar Minayin. If the mitzvah is only a matir, why would there be a Bal Ta'achar? V'afa mein Bal Ta'achar, Mekol Mokim Mitzvah's Biur. Ve'ein Svora de B'shas Abiur Mischadesh's Mitzvah. If it's only a matir. Mekol Mokim. Kol Shaloi Over Adayim B'Bal Ta'achar, Sorfoi U'miftar Ma'asei. V'tzorhi. V'ayin Minchas Chinuch Reish Pei Daled. The Minchas Chinuch clearly says Reish Pei Daled. According to the Taz, if it's not a matir, but rather a mitzvah, then if you destroy Truma, Tevel, without being mafresh, you're a mevatel mitzvah sasei. Chazon Ish says, I don't think so. It is a mitzvah chiyuvis, but if you destroyed it, then you're niftar min mitzvah. You're not mevatel a mitzvah. How would that be? How would we understand the Chazon Ish? So let me share with you my feelings. And I think the proper Adora is in the middle, somewhere in between. Because most of the Achroinim, and I think even Rabbi Akiva Eiger, understands one of two. Either Afroshas Tumas Samaisis is a matir, and a matir belvad, like Shrita, or it's a mitzvah chiyuvis, regardless of whether you want to eat or not. No. I think if you don't want to eat, you don't have a mitzvah. And the Rambam could agree with that. If you don't want to eat, you don't have a mitzvah. But if you want to eat, it's not only a matir, it's a mitzvah. And I think this is so logical because you also have a mitzvah of Nesina L'Koyim. So you can't say Tumas Samaisis is only about Issa V'Heter. If I don't want to eat, I don't take for myself, I don't have to share with others. If I take for myself, I have to share with others. If I take for myself, I have to give some of it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to his people. So on one hand, if a person doesn't intend to eat, he has no mitzvah. But on the other hand, of course it's a mitzvah, not only a matir. The Taz feels that Shechita is not even a mitzvah. And that is the Shita of the Ritzbo, brought once in the entire Shas. Pa'am Echad B'Shas, Shavuos Chol Dalet, Taisus bring the Ritzbo, that Shechita is not a mitzvah sasei. And that's the opinion of the Taz. It's a matir, not a mitzvah. Afroshas Tumas Samaisis definitely is a mitzvah. Whether Afroshas a Rosh Hashanah is one mitzvah, Kishitas HaRambam, or two mitzvahs, Kishitas HaRamban. The Ramban feels of Rosh Hashanah and Nesin Alachud, two different mitzvahs. The Rambam says they're two parts of one mitzvah, regardless. It has nothing to do with what I say right now, even if it's two mitzvahs. But in essence, Rosh Hashanah is about giving. It's not only a matter. But on the other hand, if I don't intend to eat, I don't have any chiyuv of Rosh Hashanah. But if I do intend to eat, then, it's not about Tamei mitzvahs, it's about Hagdoros of mitzvahs. And I explained in the past, sometimes the difference between Tamei mitzvahs and Hagdoros of mitzvahs is a bit, it's not Kikoris Beis Abad, it's Kavut Asara. But the Rosh Hashanah is about sharing. The moment you decide to take for yourself, give to others. The Koyanim and the Leviim have no chelik b'Eretz Yisrael. They dedicate their lives to be your shaliach in the Beis HaMikdash. So if you take for yourself, you have to share with them. So I don't think there necessarily is a stira between the Rambam and Rashi. I think they both could agree, and therefore, why should there be a vikuach between the Taz and the Kiveya? So I think Afroshes, Tumas Amaisis, and Challah is only a chiyuv if you intend to consume and to be nehana and take benefit. Otherwise, you have no chiyuv of Afroshes, Tumas Amaisis. But if you do intend to eat, it's not only about being matir, it's about sharing. And therefore, Yofashu Achas Koymen, and Zrizim Magdim Ala Mitzvahs, and there is Balta Acher, and there is a chiyuv of biur. But if you let the fruit rot out in the field, you have no biur, no Balta Acher, nothing. You don't have a chiyuv. But once you decided, you grow, and you make this issa for your benefit, and you intend to be nana, then you have a mitzvah. And it's not only about being a matir. And so I think Rashi is right. No machlokes Rashi in Rambam. So it definitely is different than Shchita. Because Shchita is only a matir. Rosh Hashanah is not only a matir. But there is no mitzvah. Elohim can. So, and therefore the Chazon Ish is right. If you burn, then obviously you're not going to eat it. So if you decide to burn it, then you're not Mavak Mitzvah say. But that's not what the Chazon Ish had in mind. Because if that is what the Chazon Ish had in mind, he wouldn't write the Tzorchim. It's not Tzorchim at all. It's Poshut. So the Chazon Ish has a different idea. And the Chazon Ish says it is a chiyuv. But if you destroy the Tumah, it's not defined. You are mafsid of mitzvah say, but not mevatel of mitzvah say. It is only when you eat without the frosha that you're defined as a mevatel mitzvah say. But as long as you don't eat, you burn, you're mafsid the opportunity. You will no longer be able to be mekayim the mitzvah, but it is not defined as a bitul mitzvah say. And that is a big chiddush, and that is why the Chazon Ish writes for tzorchin. Ledidi, it's not a tzorchin at all, because once you decide you're going to burn, then you don't have a mitzvah. The fact that you decided at some stage you want to eat and the mitzvah was chal, maybe that's a tzorchin of the Chazon Ish. You already had the mitzvah when you decided to eat. But my feeling would be, as long as I plan to eat, I had the mitzvah. The moment I no longer plan to eat, I no longer have the mitzvah. So, to me, that would be very, very messed up.
Are we willing to say this only when we see him soyrif and mevatel that potential achila? Or let's say he has his creed, and he's misakin alatzad, he doesn't really plan on eating it. Would we say it even there? Because he doesn't take a plan on eating, but he's not.
So let me make another point. Even according to my opinion, he doesn't have a chiyuv if he doesn't plan to eat. But if he's mafish to Mesamaisis, he was Mekayim a mitzvah, and he can even say a bracha. Because after all, you're metaken a sakri. And if you plan to eat, you could. And if others eat, you are matir. So I'm speaking about the chiyuv. And Simiyutes in Yoredeya, coming back to Hilchos Shchita again, there's a machlokes, shoichet leklavim. Can he say a bracha or can't he say a bracha? So the Ginas of Rodim was one of the Sephardi Gedolim going back 300 years, more than 300 years, says shoichet leklavim is a bracha levatol. Because you don't have a mitzvah if you don't intend to eat basar. Chachma Sodom in Klal Hey, and before the Chachma Sodom, the Pri Chodesh in Siman Yutes, they say, no, even Shoichet Leklovim could say a bracha. Because once he's mati of the Basar Achila, that is mitzvah shchita. It's not a chiyuv. But after all, shchita is not only about performing a mitzvah. The result of shchita is, it is a matio. The question is it only a matio? But once you matter the basar achila and the shchita is a shchitik sheira, you perform the mitzvah shchita. And the bracha is not a bracha of the Torah. And I definitely would say the same regarding Tumas Amaisis, because after all, there is Kedushas Teruma. And once you are mafresh Teruma, you also earn the mitzvah of Nesina L'Koyen. So the question is there a chiyuv or not? But even if you have no intention of eating the shirayim, after all, you are mafresh tumas, and the tumas chal, and have kedushas tuma, and from now on you need to give for a kohen. So of course you could make a bracha. But the question is there a chiyuv or there's not a chiyuv?
I mean, there's one chiyuv on the kriya and one chiyuv on the person.
It's not a mitzvah on the kriya.
The chiyuv inside the kriya itself. I mean, that's what the Rav seems to be saying.
No, I'm differentiating between a chiyuv and a
mitzvah.
mitzvah. I'm differentiating between a chiyuv and a mitzvah. Between a chiyuv and a mitzvah. So, not between the din ala kri and the din ala gavra. Anybody that's mafish tumas amaisis was makayim a mitzvah. Anybody that performed shchita was makayim a mitzvah. So, according to the Chayodam and the Pri Chodesh, I have a very strange question. Would there be a mitzvah chasidus for a tzaddik to carry around the second shchita, and whenever he sees a bird or an animal, chop off its head, cut him up, and be Makayim mitzvah shchita? Would it be a mitzvah chasidus? Because we say, even though if you don't intend to eat, you can still make a bracha. Yeah. So definitely doesn't have a chiyuv. Will it be a mitzvah chasidus? Will it be the right thing to do? So many times I say, Chacham le yikar mitzvahs. Not always is a mitzvah the right thing to do. For newcomers, they'll think I said something very strange. My Talmidim are already used to my strange stories. Sometimes performing a mitzvah is the wrong thing to do. Even though in the Heftzah, it's a mitzvah. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, like he said to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, "V'chiyot zeh lahachra b'seilomi." Are you out of your mind? Why are you killing animals? And it's Bal Tashchis and it's Tzar Balachayim. But in the Heftzah, if he made a bracha, it's not a bracha levatollah because he was Mekayim mitzvah shchita. So, Kadosh Baruch Hu gives schar al asiyas l'tzoynoi. Not always is the chetz of the mitzvah Ritzoin Hashem. And there are many, many examples, but we don't have time. That's not the sugya we're talking about. So by Froshes Tumas Amaisis, maybe it is a midas chasidus. Maybe it is, because it's not Baltashchas, it's not Tzar Balachayim. You're not destroying. And after all, when you're mafresh Tumas Amaisis, even though you don't intend to eat, but from now on, you're definitely going to be Makayim a mitzvah chayuvis. Because you need to give these Tumas Amaisis l'koyin v'lalevi. So regarding Tumas Amaisis, maybe it would be a midas chasidus. Bismaneinu, if we don't give Tumas Amaisis, maybe there no longer would be. But I still think, if there's no downside, you're still making a bracha. And if you make a bracha, first of all, every bracha is shavasol azahuvi, thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If it's a valid bracha, then you earn something, and you perform the mitzvah different than shchita. So once again, The Chazon Ish is one Chiddush, and the Chazon Ish argues. It's a chiyuv, a mitzvah chiyuvis, whether you want to eat or you don't want to eat. So the Chazon Ish sides with the Taz. But on the other hand, and that is why he says that the halacha is nere ikar kedas u oimrim. Thomas Weiss is a mitzvah chiyuvis. He definitely means the Taz against the Akiva Ego. But he comes up with a chiddush. Destroying would not be defined as a bitul. It would be defined as he'ader kiyum. When you eat without Rosh Hashanah says that would be bitul, because that is the sibah hamichayevs. But my approach would be different. And I think if you don't intend to eat, you have no mitzvah. Neither tumas, neither maisus, neither tumas maisa, neither challah. But if you intend to eat, it's not only a matio. It's not only about being matir the pelis. It is about the moment you intend to eat, you have the mitzvah. And the mitzvah is about giving a Kodesh Baruch Hu and his shluchim, giving him their share. It's not only for yourself, it's about others as well. And that would be miyashav, the argument of the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish says, if it's only a matir, how could it be baltacha? How could it be shas biur? Biur is only the zman that you need to perform previous mitzvahs, but biur is not machadish a mitzvah. How would biur be machadish a mitzvah? And that is an overpowering argument. If it's only a matir, then what does the shas biur mean? So I say, there's no shas biur is only if you intend ultimately to eat those peiros, and only then is there a chiyuv. So that is the difference between truma on one hand and shita on the other hand. So in the past, I dealt with a fundamental question regarding hadoras or mitzvahs. A mitzvah that is a matio, is it defined as a proper mitzvah to say? So the Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvahs, Kuf Mem Vav, the Rambam counts shchita as a mitzvah to say. Kuf Mem Tes, the Rambam also counts B'dikas Simonei Tahara. The Simonim that differentiate between Minim Tameim and Minim Tahirim. Behema, Chaya, Dogim. Be'oifis there are no Simonim, but rather a Messiah. And the Rambam defines B'dikas Simonim as mitzvah. And in Sefer HaMitzvahs, the Ravid is the Baprut of the Rambam. Minyan HaMitzvahs is the Ramban. But I explained before, Sefer HaMitzvahs is part of the Mishnah Torah. So the Ravid is Masik, and the Kesef Mishnah is Miyashiv. So the Ravid, both Kuf Mem Vuv and Kuf Mem Tes says, the Rambam is off mark. Because Shchita is Alav Abo Mechlal Asay, and it should not be in the Minyan of Mitzvah Asay. Neither B'dikasona nor Shchita. The Kesef Mishnah says, according to the Rambam, still is defined as a Mitzvah Asay. The Ravid argues, it's Kum V'asay, but it's a Matio, so it's more closely associated with the Isser than it is with Mitzvah Asay. So according to the Ravid, that should not be B'minyan HaMitzvahs. But the Rambam counts Kuf Chov Beis Gimel Dalet Hey Vav Zayin, as we saw before, all the mitzvahs of Tu. No, not Beis. No. All the mitzvahs of Rosh Hashanah, from Kuf Chovov to Kuf Chov Tes, and the Ravid is not Masik. So this once again proves that there's a difference. Shchita B'dikas Samonim are only a matyo. Truma is different. Truma is a mitzvah. And so the Ravid doesn't necessarily support the Taz. The Taz clearly says, there's a mitzvah even if he doesn't intend to eat. No, no. So many years ago I thought that the Ravid is a raya to the Taz. But I don't think so. Maybe the Ravid would agree, as I say, there's no mitzvah unless he intends to eat. But it's not only a matir, it's not a Rav Bo Machlal say. When he decides to eat, it is a mitzvah to share. And therefore the Ravid has no hasuga regarding flushes. So I compiled a list of 9 mitzvahs, which are all mitzvahs kiyumiyos. Mitzvahs that are not defined as mitzvahs chiyuviyos. Mitzvahs that only rest upon us when we decide to partake of inyonim shel rishus. They're not mitzvahs chiyuviyos. But they go into 3 different clothing, 3 different categories. Tzitzis, Kiddushin, and Sukkah. If a person doesn't want to live with a woman, he has no mitzvah of Eilusin. Doesn't want to wear dalet kanfis, no mitzvah of tzitzis. If he doesn't eat Shivas Yemei Chag, he doesn't have to sit in Sukkah. But these 3 mitzvahs are definitely mitzvahs asay, beyond doubt. They cannot be defined as a matir, because the only isser to eat chutz l'sukkah is bittul mitzvah sukkah. The only isser to wear dalet kanfis without tzitzis is bittul mitzvah tzitzis. And the only isser to be with a woman without kiddushin is bittul mitzvah kiddushin. So which isser exactly are these mitzvahs matir? There is no isser. Contrary to shchita, that's matir nevela nevim and achai, tunas amaises that are matir teva. So I explained that tunas amaises is different than shchita, but they do have something in common. Both are matir as ha'osur. What I explain is tunas amaises is not only a matir. It is a matir, but it goes beyond being a matir. Tzitzis, Sukkah, Kiddushin cannot be defined at all as a matir. It's a different category, different yesod, a different agdara. These mitzvahs don't rest upon you unless you decide to do something that you're not mechuyev to do. But they cannot be defined as matirim. Category number 2, shchita, bedikas amoni, which are only a matir. And it's a machlokas Rambam and HaRav. Do they belong in Taryag or they don't belong in Taryag? But they are matirim. Gerushin. The Rambam counts Gerushin in minyan mitzvahs. It is in the list. Reish Chov Beis. Chalitza. Reish Yud Zayin. Chalitza and Gerushin, once again, are only a mitzvah if you want to leave your wife. She wants to remarry. She doesn't want to remarry. And you don't want to remarry after Cherem Derabenu Gershon, then there's no Chiyuv of Gerushin. Same thing with Chalitza. Most boys can pass him. If a woman doesn't want to remarry, she has no mitzvah of Chalitza. So Gershon and Chalitza are matirim, and they definitely come to Asar. They come to be matir, another Isser. Isser Eishes Ish. Isser Yavom Reshuk. It's a Rav. Lo Isser Eishes Ameis Achutza Le'ish Zar. So these are matirim. Why doesn't the Rabbi disagree with the Rambam when the Rambam counts them in the list of Taryag mitzvahs? Why are they different than Bedikas Amonim and Shchita? They're different because besides being matirim, they're also dinim. They change the status of a person. So they are dinim, and dinim belong in the list of Taryag. Even though no chiyuv whatsoever, unless these people want to remarry. So Gerushin and Chalitza are matirim. So why doesn't the Rabbi disagree with the Rambam? Because they are dinim. They change the status of dinim. She is no longer an Eishes Ish. She is no longer a Yavoma, Mekan and Ahava. And that is an additional reason why Kiddushin is a mitzvah saseh. Because Kiddushin is not only a mitzvah, it's a din. It's a kinyan. It changes the status. She was a Pnuya, no longer, now she's an Eishes Ish. Gerushin, she was an Eishes Ish, no longer, now she's a Pnuya. And dinim belong in the minyan, just like Mekach and Memkar, which the Rambam counts in Reish Mem Hey. So 3 categories. Only regarding Shchita and Bedikas Amonim does the Rav disagree with the Rambam. They are not dinim. Only mitzvahs. And the entire essence of these mitzvahs is to be matir. According to the Rav, it doesn't belong in the list of mitzvahs, as say. Kiddushin, Sukkah, Tzitzis, 3 mitzvahs that are kiyumi, not chiyuvi. Trumas HaMaisis as well. Even according to my Pshat. If you don't want to eat, you don't have a chiyuv. But they are not just a matir. Tzitzis, Sukkah, Kiddushin cannot be defined as a matir because there's no other isser. There's no isser that these mitzvahs are matir. Kiddushin and Truma, for an additional reason, would not be defined as matir because they change status. They're dinim. Rosh Hashanah is not only a matir. Kiddush is a Truma. Shevet Kehina. It regards Momenis. It's not Momen HaBailim. It's Momen HaShevet. So dinim have a different status. So we spoke about Shchita, Bedika, Kiddushin, Sukkah, Tzitzis, Gerushin, Chalitza, Mekach Umemka, Trumas HaMaisis. Trumas HaMaisis in itself is 5 different pieces. And we made sale. We still have some time left, and because there are so many sugyas, right now I go over to sugya number 2. And I have a disagreement with many in this sugya. So Rashi ala Torah in Pasha Shlach, by the very source of mitzvahs, Afroshas Challah, the Noid of Yehuda argues that there is a stira minei ubei in Rashi ala Torah in Pasha Shlach. By David Hashem Moshe Lemor, David Ibn Yisrael Moshe Lemor, Yevorech Menorotz Asher Maybe Es Kim Shlomo. Biachalchem Elechem Orotz Torimu Trum El Hashem Ketrum Segoyim Kein Torimu Oisim. Writes Rashi, Ketrum Segoyim Shemaynema Boshio. V'lo Ketrum Esmaisis Sheyesh Boshio. אבל חכמים נוסנו שיר. בעל הבית אחד מחוב ד' נחתם אחד מרבון בשמיים. And then the pasuk goes on. Mereshis arisasechem titnu Hashem truma l'dorisechem. Kosev Rashi, titnu Hashem truma lefi shelo shamanu shio l'chala. Ne'amar titnu. Sheheba kedei nesina. Sheheba kedei nesina. What is kedei nesina? Rashi, just one pasuk earlier, Rashi writes, Ketrumis hagoyred sheloi nemo bo shio. So the Noida Yehuda, famous Shuva, Madura Tinyona, Yoredeas in Reish Aleph, writes, and this is common in the Noida Yehuda. He was so happy with his Chedushim, Simchas HaTorah, and he writes, I'm going to be machadish something, sheloi omar adam me'oyno. Not everybody would be proud to say something no one ever said. No one ever said. You need to ask yourself, why didn't they say it? You know, if it's right, how come no one said it? But that's the Noida Yehuda. He writes, nobody ever came up with this amazing idea. So the Noida Yehuda says, Shnei dinim, yesh b'tumas ha'maises u'b'chala. Hafrosha ein lo shio, nesina yesh lo shio. And it's very beautiful in Psukei HaTorah. Reishes arisasechem chala toru tarimu truma kedorisech kein tarimu oisam. Harama is Afrosha. And Afrosha, Rashi writes, ein lo shio. But when the pasuk says Mereshes arisasechem titnu laShem truma kedorisech, that is nesina. Nesina yesh lo shio. Nesina means to be nesina chashuv. Hafroshana. And that is why Chazal say, Chito achas, hoi teres esakri. To pater the kri, it's enough Chito achas, but you're not Mekayim the mitzvah of Nesina. To be Mekayim the mitzvah of Nesina, has to be a Nesina chashuva. And the Noida Yehuda says, Chav Dalet is a shir dioraisa. not for a Frosh, but rather for Nesina. The son of the Noida Yehuda, Reb Shmuel Ando, who was also one of the Gedolei Ador, and Memala Mokum Avoso, says no. If Chov Dal is the Shia D'Uraisa, how a Chazal Mekel and Achton, and Mevatel and Mitzvah D'Uraisa. Doesn't touch Tevel, because the Frosh is Kolshu, Chito Achas. But how will Chazal Mevatel and Mitzvah Nesina L'Koyim, if Chov Dal is the Shia D'Uraisa? Okay, it's Sheval Taisa. Yesh Korach Biyad Chachom and Laka Dover and Torah Sheval Taisa, but why? Why? Just to save money from the Nachton. So the son of the Noida Yehuda suggests it would be more reasonable to say that Echod Memem Ches is the Shia D'Uraisa, and Chachomim were Machmir for a Balabayis. If it would depend on me, I would say no. There is no Shia D'Uraisa. Nesina Chashuva. Why shouldn't we learn Rashi as is? Titnu lefi shelo ne'emar b'shia tzirach tzorach nesina chashuva nimsa davar l'chachamim. But min Torah, it is undefined. One thing is sure: it's not chito achas poteres esakri. Tzorach nesina chashuv. So I don't know whether the Noida Yehuda would be happy or sad to learn that two of the Rishonim were his predecessors, and they said it before him. One is the Toysus Reid, Rabbeinu Yeshayahu Arishon, in Kedushin Nun Ches, and Rabbi Yosef Shon Natanzon wrote Hagoas, Hen on Toysus Reid Kedushin, and on the Noida Yehuda. So on both sources, Rabbi Yosef Shon Natanzon writes, Noida Yehuda thought he's the first with this idea. So the Toysus Reid came before him, and Rabbi Yosef Shon is Mitzayin, Hem in his Agos on the Toysus Reid, and Hem the Agos on the Noida Yehuda. But there's an addition, and that is Maram Chalavim, so in Lamed Beis. And he says, Mamish the same. Chito Achas Poteres Sakri Afrosh, Mitzvah Nesina, Tzorach Nesina. But the Noida Yehuda and his son, I don't know why they think that the Shia D'Uraisa is either Echad Mechov Dalad or Echad Memem Ches. I think it would be more reasonable to say there is no Shia. Nesina also has no Shia, but it needs to be in Nesina Chashuv. Sochem Lamed Beis. Bova Metzian Mem Zayin. Toises proves from Truma that ain't Shia L'Nesina. And Kolshi is Nesina. Sharei, Chitwachas Poteres Sakri. So this Toises definitely goes against the Noida Yehuda and the other Rishonim. According to the Maram Chalav and Toises the Noida Yehuda, no. Nesina is not Kolshu. And Toises proves from Truma Gedoyla, Chitwachas Poteres Sakri, that Nesina has no Shia. So it is a Kiddush. It is a Kiddush. But in my opinion, no. The Noida Yehuda is not right regarding Shitas Rashi. And this brings me to Erazbaz and Rashi, Purim Kuf Lamed Zayin. And I wonder, could I have a Gemara Chulin? Kuf Lamed Zayin Omid Beis. I think the kavanah of Rashi is not to be machalek bein Nesina lahafrosha. No. Sina and Afrosha are two sides of the same. Lo merbai l'shittas Rambam, even l'shittas Rambam, that the two mitzvahs. I think Rashi is machalek between lachatchila and bidiyah, and that is the kavanah of Rashi, and not to be machalek bein Frosh and Nesina. Hilchos Bikurim. So you just started Hilchos Challah. Have you already discovered where is Hilchos Challah in the Rambam? Yeah? Where is it? Great. Because I once saw a mamar in a sefer writing a big pilpul. Why is Dina Pidin Aben in Hilchos Bikurim? What does Pidin Aben have to do with Bikurim? So he writes, it's the same idea. Reishis Bikuri Adamo, Reishis Peter Rechem. You wasn't aware that Hilchos Bikurim is not only Hilchos Bikurim, but Hilchos Bikurim is Shah Matniskim Shibikurim. It wasn't the old Rambams. There was no space up there. So, on the top of the page was Hilchos Bikurim. So he writes a big pilpul. Why is Pidin Aben in Hilchos Bikurim? So Hilchos Bikurim is Shah Matnis Kehuna Shibikurim. So where would you expect Pidin Aben to be if not Shah Matnis Kehuna Shibikurim? So the Rambam writes, Perikev Hilchos Bikurim, Mitzvah Saseh Lahafresh Tmuna Menu Isu Shenem Reisha Lishsechem Charatrim Utrumo. Reisha Zu Ein Lo Shiyeh Men HaTorah. Afelu Hifresh Kesoera Poter Aseuiso. Kosa Varad Ba Ze Gewaldige Chiddush.